that they're going to make change. For those of you who aren't familiar with me, I've been active for years. I'm a registered Democrat, but don't let that fool you. I'm a very small government, small tax, free market constitutionalist. I was on the Des Moines School Board for a couple years. I actually was elected to a 3-year term, but I focused on exposing corruption so much that they convinced the legislature to take a year off my term. They were successful in that effort. They were unsuccessful in getting me prosecuted. And also they were unsuccessful in preventing me from getting real reform.
What charges? Prosecuting?
Well, this is what one of the school board members said. Not a single time in closed door or in public session had they ever given a sufficient reason to have me prosecuted. But I did things like tell the truth, like I exposed, right now the former union boss is suing me because she didn't endorse she didn't endorse the wife of one of the big Democrats in Des Moines, Jeff Link, nor did she endorse the school board president, 3-term school board incumbent who I beat. I raised $750. He raised more than $20,000. He had Joy Corning and Sally Peterson and Mara Pomerantz on his side. I just had the truth on my side and beat him. And this person didn't endorse him, so they fired her, and then they gave her a big 6-figure payoff. And I talked about that. They said that I violated confidentiality, but I said, well, make the tape public, which they're refusing to do because it would probably result in some school board members being prosecuted. I also did things like exposed that we were paying contractors without them being able to actually justify their time. We had a $20 million contractor named Taylor Kitchell. Actually, they were a consultant, not a contractor. All they did was management. I proved that they were billing us for time that didn't exist. Since then, they did not have their contract renewed, which cost them about $45 to $50 million in project management fees. I actually got death threats over that. And the only time I was actually nervous on the school board was when I was getting my new life insurance policy. But I did things like I went on WHO radio every week and talked about, things that were happening in the school board, talked about the dropout rates, the graduation rates, things like that. But also the Des Moines School District was the most powerful, entrenched, and corrupt division of local government in Iowa's history. Our business partners literally included people like Ed Bozen, who died allegedly from an attempted suicide. I don't know how you die from an attempted suicide, but they found out afterwards he had ripped off between 75 to 100 million. John Klein, who is facing federal indictment, and his house mysteriously burned down after that was made public, and the judge actually found that he paid off about $750,000. Coincidentally, at the same time, a major land deal with the school was going on. So, education is big business in Iowa. Governors Branstad and Culver have both been endorsed by the Iowa State Education Association. They called me the greatest threat to public education in the history of the state. I think that's the coolest honor I've ever received, by the way. And I've also promised to break their back over my knee should I get elected governor. But I was a member of the school board, and I did a couple of things that most politicians don't do. First, on September 10th, 2007, before I was elected to the school board, I sat down with a gentleman by the name of J. Michael McCoy. He hosted a daily radio show in Des Moines. And he made a list of things I said I would get done. On July 3rd, 2009, we sat down. Every single item on that list got checked off. Most politicians can't say they get those kind of results. Now, every time I've gotten involved in advocacy, I've gotten 3 things: new enemies, very little credit, and results. The second thing is I promised I'd only serve 1 term because I think politicians stay around too long. I actually believe in citizen servants. And if you're an effective leader, you ought to be able to lay a foundation so that someone can come along and continue what you started. I think that the day of the career politician has come and should go very rapidly. because all we've seen is that these individuals become institutions in and of themselves. The top priority is staying in power with the rationale, if I'm not in power and if I'm not in office, I can't do stuff. But then they don't do stuff because if they do stuff, they're afraid they won't stay in office or stay in power. So that was my part of my political pedigree, so to speak. And the Register published 100 or so articles on me, 150 articles on me, most of them attacking me. And that's not all bad, because if the Des Moines Register doesn't like you, that sometimes is a badge of honor. And we also found that the people who were involved in the local media were entwined. The wife of one of the big news directors over there was a key staffer for the Iowa Association of School Boards. The young lady who wrote a lot of articles about me ended up taking a job with the Iowa Association of School Boards. Of course, earlier this year it broke, I believe it was in March, that the Iowa Association of School Board was doing things like giving themselves giant raises without permission, loaning millions of dollars to private businesses, using tax dollars to take trips to places like Bora Bora. So now that scandal's hit and the FBI's in here, I've been even more vindicated in exposing the corruption in Des Moines-based education systems. So just a real quick summary of the pillars for my campaign, and then I'll just throw it open for questions. There are 4 pillars to my campaign: small, efficient, accountable government. I have laid out where I support cutting a net. Do you want to give her one of those, Ray? We're fighting for. I've shown where I support cutting actual state and local government spending by a gross $2 to $3 billion and a net $1.5 to $2 billion. I'd be glad to explain how we do that. But government in this state is simply too big. And unlike the Iowans for Tax Relief that supports a 99% constitutional amendment, I think that we need to end the Chevy Chase National Lampoon Christmas Vacation approach to government spending. Now, how many of you have seen that movie? Okay, Chevy Chase is waiting for his bonus check, and every year politicians wait for the revenue estimating conference to say, here's what 99% is, and then we figure out how to spend 99% of the money. I actually believe that we, 1, need a flexible freeze that caps spending, period, and 2, we need to move to zero-based budgeting that says these are the things that we are supposed to be doing as a state: funding safety, courts, elections, maintaining our education system, because that's in the Iowa Constitution. And from there, everything else that's non-essential gets vetoed. And I've told folks I will veto every non-essential expenditure. And when you begin with the zero-based budgeting approach, you actually find that you end up spending a lot less than 99% of the revenue the state generates. Now, I'm a big supporter of cutting taxes, not shifting taxes. I don't support the fair tax and the flat tax, which lowers some and raises others. I'm a tax cutter. And in order to be a responsible tax cutter, you must first be a spending cutter. So I significantly reduce spending in government, and then I move to the second phase, which is cutting taxes. Now, there are 4 areas of tax cuts that I support. The first is phasing out the corporate tax over a 4 to 5 year period. Now, as part of the phase out, I support what I call a 0% option, which basically says in year 1, every penny, every dollar of your corporate tax that you put back into your Iowa-based operation or purchase goods and services from an Iowa vendor, you reduce your tax liability by $1. This means you could, in theory, zero out your tax bill. But that money's forced back into the Iowa economy, and then after 4 or 5 years, that corporate tax is completely phased off and eliminated from the books. And I will say this, that I actually link my tax cuts to my spending reductions. So I don't cut taxes as fast as I normally would like to, but I do cut right away a huge amount of taxes. The second area, and to go with as a companion to corporate tax reform, eliminate all of the tax credit schemes. It's ridiculous that we funded Iowa Wood. It's ridiculous that we're giving people tax credits that don't use them, and then we turn around and send them rebate checks or allow them to sell them.